Robin video. Next straw hat, let's go. Also, quick disclaimer, this video will feature a plethora of manga spoilers, including chapter 1021, which we will be discussing shortly. So, Robin's first bounty, 79 million berries. She earns it after Ohara. Basically, first of all, she has a devil fruit already at that age, which is pretty useful, I'd say. Second of all, she knows the secrets of Ohara, which would warrant a bounty of that number. Second of all, she's considered to be like a devil of sorts. And third of all, the interesting thing is that actually, if you think about it, it's pretty low in the grand scheme of things. Like, for the time, it was a very high bounty, but if you think about all the bounties that we're getting now, it would make sense for someone that knows like the secrets of the world and has the ability to read poneglyphs, then they would be worth like a lot more, like maybe a billion berries, which we'll get into later. But then we get her second bounty after Enies Lobby, which is 80 million. And I'm surprised that that bounty was not higher as well, but it seems very consistent that the government wants to keep Nico Robins' importance under wraps, and that could help to determine her bounty. But based on like fights and other things, she usually gets like a bounty increase just based on that. So I don't feel like she could get like a really, really high bounty increase after Wano necessarily, like bring her up to 1 billion just because that the government sees her as a threat now. I feel like that could happen with her final bounty, but not her Wano bounty. And her Wano bounty is going to be based on her fight specifically, I think, which we can get into. But after Enies Lobby, that kind of makes sense. Robin was obviously a bad guy before Skypiea, and she didn't really do much fighting in that arc necessarily, so we can't like give her a bounty that could be expected at that point. But of course, we know that Crocodile's bounty was like 80 or 81 million, so them two having like the same bounty amount was like very impressive, even though of course we know that Crocodile's bounty was of course frozen, and because he's a warlord, his bounty could be much higher. Skypiea, she has the fight with that random guy. I think he like controlled the goat men, so I guess that makes him pretty high status, but I don't remember him being that powerful, and quite honestly, I don't feel like reading that fight again. So, Enies Lobby. Robin, again, doesn't have a very specific fight because the arc is focused on her and more of like her character development, not necessarily her fighting capabilities, so she doesn't get like an explicit fight during Enies Lobby. But, of course, we know that she's very powerful, and I feel like she could take out most of the members of CP9 if she had one-on-one fights with them. Maybe not like Lucy himself, but I think she would be fine. But either way, we establish her 80 million berry bounty. So her next bounty, which is 130 million, which is of course a 50 million increase that all the straw hats that didn't like do like any specific fighting got. So the only ones that were different, of course, were Choppers and Sanji's and Luffy and Zoro, because Chopper, and then like the big three, not the big three, but the monster trio. But Robin gets an increase of 50 million. She doesn't really have many specific fights throughout that arc either, and it seems like there's a pattern for some straw hats that they haven't had a real fight since Skypiea, which is happening with like Chopper and Robin. So now that we've established why she got those bounties, let's get into Wano. So Robin didn't really have much of a fight leading up to this either. She and Jinbei go off once they get to Onogashima, and then they hang out for a bit until Sanji, of course, calls Robin because Black Maria wants to basically interrogate her and torture her, because that's like one of her things, to find out like this information and keep her for Kaido's crew so that they can get to the One Piece. But then fighting ensues, and now Robin has beaten Black Maria, and the thing is, it's now debatable as to whether or not Robin has armament hockey or not. In my mind, it's pretty much confirmed. Like, that just makes sense for her to be able to be a member of the Topiropo and with just like the way that she learned that technique, which was tied to like Sabo. Sabo also has a very similar technique that he was teaching Robin, kind of, which would make sense as to why she would have arm in hockey, and it could be like her final move. So yeah, that just makes sense. So now we have to think about what the Toby Robo's bounties could be, and the only confirmed member of the Toby Robo that actually has a bounty is X Drake, and we got that during Sabaody, which is of course pre-time skip. So in terms of the Toby Robo, we have basically no basis as to what their bounties could be, but thinking about other supernovas that have had bounties revealed post-time skip, it could be easier to kind of find its bounty relatively. I don't feel like Drake's would be that much higher, but I feel like all the Toby Robos could be like much closer to 500 million. I think it's going to be lower for 500 million for some of the members. Like, for instance, Drake had 222 million, and then Law had 200 million pre-time skip, but Law has done a lot more post-time skip. First of all, he betrayed the Warlords and had an alliance with Luffy, but Drake pretty much just joined the Kaido's crew quietly, has just kind of been with him. So I don't feel like Drake would have a bounty that's that much higher. I feel like he's in the 300 million range, and Black Maria and most of the other members I think would be like slightly higher. So we could put Black Maria's bounty around 400 million. So Robin, makes sense that she would get an increase. Maybe we just add 300 million berries onto her bounty and give her 430 million. So that seems like a pretty good place for Robin. She beat a Toby Ropo straight out. Like, that's definitively it. Like, nothing. So now, post Wano, that's the thing that's like really important. So Robin gets a higher bounty, obviously, but I don't feel like the government is specifically going to recognize her for it. Their main priority in Wano is, of course, Who's Who, because he's a little sus. We don't really know who he is. He's who's who, you know? Like, yeah. But now that the government is going to be watching Robin, because, of course, Robin's, like, pretty much one of the most important people in the entire story at this point, because, of course, now that we're getting to Raftail and this next saga is going to be focused on that, Robin's going to play a big role because she knows things about the poneglyphs and everything else. So Robin's bounty could be increased at any point, and I feel like whenever the Straw Hats are going to get their next bounties, that's when it's really going to like skyrocket. I feel like for Robin, it would make sense to have an even billion, if not higher. So let's put Robin's next bounty as an even billion. And quite honestly, I don't feel like she's going to get a bounty after that. I feel like that would be her final bounty, and that would just work. So yeah, that's pretty much the video. If you have any like suggestions or what you think Robin's bounty would be, let me know. I'm also really interested as to what people think the Toby Ropo's bounties could be, so also let me know that. So yeah, like, comment, subscribe, share, post notifications, but also do share because these videos don't get that many views. So yeah, bye.